Kharkiv under attack. News and update. Slovakian PM Robert Fico assassination attempt. Weapons made to fire. Fire ban hopefully to be lifted. Good afternoon. In today's wrap-up on UATV English, breaking hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine as usual. Kharkiv under attack. Despite this, Zelenskyy came to Kharkiv and held a staff meeting right there. President has listened to a detailed report by Chief Commander Alexander Syrsky and other high-profile officers. Concrete discussions took place where countermeasures were determined. Commanders analyzed in detail the prospects of the combat situation, the upcoming threats in the coming days and weeks, and Ukrainian opportunities to counter Russian offensive plans.
I want to ask you to convey my gratitude to your comrades from the 92nd Brigade. You didn't miss the enemy. You are strong warriors. I am also grateful to other soldiers from Kharkiv who are fighting in other brigades for defending Ukraine. Today we are here in such an important direction. Thank you. Take care. I wish you strength, victory and health to your family and friends.
President confirmed that Kharkiv Oblast is generally under control. Our soldiers are inflicting significant losses on the occupier and it costs us blood. The direction remains extremely difficult. President promised to be strengthening all units ASAP. The heads of the intelligence and special forces reported on the latest intentions of the occupier and on countermeasures, of course. Zelenskyy confirms a plan of further actions has been defined, both for the regional authorities of Kharkiv region and for all structures responsible for security in the region in general. Zelenskyy also visited our wounded defenders in the hospital, talked with soldiers, honored them in person with state awards. Military medical workers are also currently going through a very difficult test during the defense of our Kharkiv region. Zelenskyy noted that it is obvious that they do everything possible and even sometimes impossible to bring the warriors back to good health. Our forces fighting Russian troops in northern districts of Vovchansk in the Kharkiv region. The invaders have been unable to break through deeper into the border town. The capture of Vovchansk, 3 miles from the border, would be Russia's most significant gain since it launched an attack deeper into the region last Friday, in fact, opening a new front in its invasion. This is it for the moment. For the news from Kharkiv, we will surely tell you more as soon as we can. Ukrainian officials are asking Washington to allow the use of American weapons to strike Russia after Russian army launched an offensive on Kharkiv, writes Politico. Russia's offensive efforts to capture Vovchansk are largely a consequence of the West's policy of limiting the use by Ukrainian forces of partner-provided weapons to strike legitimate military targets on Russian territory. The American Institute of the Study of War writes about this in its report, clearly showing that it is exactly from these territories that Russian troops support their offensive operations in the northern part of Kharkiv region. A group of our Ukrainian diplomats is now in Washington, where they plan to gain support of American partners on the matter. Namely, the Ukrainian army hopes to strike Russian military warehouses to slow down the army's advance in the Kharkiv region. I hope that our diplomats would succeed to do what it takes to make the weapons finally fire, as it does not make much of a sense, if you ask me, when you sit at the crucial military aid package for half a year, watching Russians getting ready, then finally release it, watching Russians attack, and still you all weapons from firing, watching Russians trying to occupy even more of Ukrainian land. In case someone forgot, it is Russian army occupying land of Ukraine, not otherwise.
In terms of what the Ukrainians do, in our view, it is their decision about how to use these weapons. They're defending their country. They were illegally invaded by Putin, and they must take those steps. We don't discuss any caveats that we put on those things, but let's be absolutely clear. Russia has launched an attack into Ukraine, and Ukraine absolutely has the right to strike back at Russia.
Including inside Russia?
Well, right, that's a decision for Ukraine, and Ukraine has that right. Just as Russia is striking inside Ukraine, you can quite understand why Ukraine feels the need to make sure it's defending itself, it's getting the Russians out of its country, and it has the ability to strike back.
Well, there are countries that allow their weapons to fire when necessary, and not only when it is politically correct. And it is great honor to be Latvian myself when Latvia speaks like this.
Already now there are countries that have provided weapons to Ukraine without such restrictions. Of course, not all details are announced publicly, and it is even better not to say it out loud until a time is proper. The main thing is the impact on the battlefield. There is a choice whether to talk loudly about something or simply act and do what is necessary. Baiba Braža, head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Latvia.
Well, of course, the Russian tone of voice today sounds like that. Oh, those Ukrainians, they want war and not peace. Well, I am happy to announce, already this summer, Ukraine plans to introduce new long-range peace negotiations weapons right at the very front line. So come and see for yourself, Russians. The United States and Western allies are doing their best to help Kiev with preparation for these negotiations, peace talks based on the position of strength and Ukrainian national interests, and not on an outdated imperial KGB paradigm of Russian Tsar. You know, one day this is just going to happen. Ukraine will win. Going through all of it, Russian invasion, pro-Russian senators sitting on crucial military aid, the fire ban on weapons that are literally made to fire, we'll go through all of it. All of it takes to win. And the reason for this resilience of ours was initially born in, now brace yourself, in the Kremlin. Yes, Ukraine will win because Russia left us no choice. And it is good to see the world is finally getting to understand it. Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico was shot in a small town northeast of Bratislava. Slovakian mass media published the moment of the attack on Prime Minister. On Wednesday evening, Defense Minister Robert Kalinak said Mr. Fico had been in surgery for over 3 hours, and that situation was bad. Slovakian politicians, including the president, have called the shooting an attack on democracy.
Unfortunately, I cannot yet state that we are winning or that the prognosis is positive, because the extent of the injuries caused by the 4 gunshots wound is so extensive that the body's response will still be very demanding. The doctors managed to stabilize his health, but his life is still not out of danger.
The attack happened at about 2:30 in Handlova, about 112 miles from the capital Bratislava, as Mr. Fico greeted people in front of a cultural community center where a government meeting had been held. Footage show a man raising a gun and firing 5 times at the Prime Minister before being subdued by bodyguards, while other members of Mr. Fico's security took the wounded Prime Minister into his car. Prime Minister Fico was then airlifted by helicopter to a nearby hospital before being flown further to another hospital in Banska Bystrica, east to Handlova. Later on Wednesday, Slovakia's Deputy Prime Minister Tomas Taraba told in BBC's NewsHour program he believed Mr. Fico's medical procedure in hospital had gone well. Mr. Fico was fighting for his life in hospital and now, as doctors confirm, is not in a life-threatening condition and most likely will survive. What always amazes me in those lone shooters is they always turn out in the end to be not so much lone shooters. Will we ever really know, was this guy a lone desperate shooter or something else? Of course, there might be a bunch of reasons, including Mr. Fico's political stance. For example, in easy terms, the fact is there were times, though, when politician Robert Fico was known for his anti-Ukrainian and very pro-Russian statements.
You can send all the weapons in the world to Ukraine. You can send a lot of money there. You can send lots of logistic help. It is my opinion. This war does not have a military solution. It does not. And in 2 years, we will be where we are now. Russia will be on the same border where it is now. But there will be tens of thousands more dead people. Yes, those who talk about the need to send soldiers to the territory of Ukraine are aware that without foreign military assistance, Ukraine can never win this war. Never.
However, recently, Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico changed the political stance and made several statements quite friendly towards Ukraine.
I'd like to visit Slovakia as soon as possible. We can arrange this meeting, let's say, not far away from the borders because of your program. My people to arrange this visit as soon as possible because there is so many topics we should discuss. Please believe me, we are here and we want to help. Of course, there are some issues where we might have different opinions, but that's political life. But anyway, I believe that if you will see the Slovak delegation, the composition of the delegation and topics we would like to open. We will see that we really want to assist you, we really want to help you.
The mass media also report that the attacker is a well-known local writer, Juraj Cintula. During the interrogation, 71-year-old stated that he decided to assassinate Fico because he, Cintula, disagreed with the political course Slovakian government is implementing. Juraj Cintula might have been associated with the pro-Russian paramilitary group Slovenský branci, as reports Slovakian investigative journalist Szabolcs Pania. Slovenský branci is a paramilitary group operating in Slovakia since 2012. The organization collaborated with the Night Wolves. This is Russian community pro-Kremlin bikers, and its members were trained by former Russian special forces. So it would be fair enough to say that it is certainly warms the cold Soviet heart of the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin to see anyone pro-Ukrainian being shot. That much is clear. Meanwhile, Ukraine wishes Mr. Fico well and soon recovery.
We strongly condemned this act of violence against our neighboring partner state head of government. Every effort should be made to ensure that violence does not become the norm in any country, form or sphere. We sincerely hope Robert Fico recovers soon and express our solidarity with the people of Slovakia. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on social network X.
And what Ukraine wishes for dictator Russian President Putin himself, well, I guess it is as obvious as it gets. Just let your imagination go wild for a moment, then times that at 40 million, and you'll get a rough idea of Ukrainian national wish these days. I must say my goodbyes for you now. However, more to come tomorrow. For news on Ukraine, please choose UATV English, done for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. Like, share, subscribe and comment. Your opinion matters. It helps Ukrainian voice to be heard worldwide. Stay tuned and safe, and see you very soon.